Hello and welcome to .easy. We're going to be doing another video. As always, I'm Graham and I'm here to help you out with different things as always. Here we're going to be talking today about setting up an add-on domain. Now add-on domains are pretty helpful for those of you who have our unlimited hosting plan. This offers many different benefits and no additional costs, which is really the biggest benefit of all of it. Now what an add-on domain is when you take one domain, in this case we're going to call it domain A, and this is our primary domain. What we can do is we can then take another account that doesn't have any hosting, or maybe you want to drop the hosting of it because of cost reasons or anything else. So this will be domain B. So what we can do is we can add domain B, this add-on domain, into primary account domain A's account. This means it can use all the same features of unlimited hosting at no additional hosting costs. The only thing you need to do for domain B is just simply keep the domain registration active, which is on its own, whether it's through us or whether it's through another company. We can easily help you set up a special domain-only plan for it. They're just $15, and that includes the registration privacy and the actual domain locking as well. So it's very easy to set it up, get it all going. What it then does is it allows both accounts to be managed from the same server. So one cPanel gets you into both accounts, can make changes to either one. You can set up WordPress, you can set up email, you get all the different features of the unlimited hosting, like the unlimited space for email, for website. You get access to the PHP, the MySQL. If you were on a basic hosting plan before, you may not have had access to that. So you do get a lot more with it. You may also get access to IMAP or SSL email, which you may not have had before either. So there are only benefits to doing this. Now, one common question that we get asked a lot whenever it's any kind of add-on domain is, does this distort the domain name? It actually does not. They're completely separate. So domain A stays completely as domain A, and domain B stays completely as domain B. They keep their URLs, the actual website address, so domainb.com always stays the same. Don't need to worry about it whatsoever. It's not like it becomes a subdomain or anything else. So they are completely separate, and you don't need to be concerned about people who go to your site, your visitors. From their perspective, they won't actually know there's any difference to it. You can definitely tell there is a difference if you know what you're looking for, but pretty much you'd have to know exactly what you're looking for, the other server IP addresses, doing a bunch of DNS reverse lookups, a whole bunch of technical stuff. You can find out there's a difference, but for the average user, no need to worry about it. They're going to be just happy that your site continues to work. They're not going to notice there was a difference whatsoever. So that means there's really only benefits to doing this. There's no downside whatsoever. Also, if you have any problems with this, you can easily contact us at .easy for our support. And we're more than happy to help walk you through this process. We do it quite often for many different people. More than happy to help you with it as well. So for this here, we're going to start off by going to the .easy website. And from here, we need to go into Member Zone. Now for Member Zone, this may get a little tricky, and we're going to try and separate it as much as possible because we're going to be logging into the two accounts differently. We're going to need to start off by going into the primary account. This is going to be whichever one you set up your unlimited hosting plan under, so that you can take advantage to it. We need to start off with this account because we need to find out what servers we need to point the secondary domain, the add-on domain, to in order to have it work off this plan. So we're going to go into our first account here, which in this case is going to be sampledomain.net. That's going to be our primary account. So we need to go into this one here. And then we need to press continue to sign in to get past the loading screen. And here you're going to see Member Zone, where you're quite familiar with. Worked through it a bunch of times. We're going to see a whole bunch of different options here. So for this, we don't need most of this information. It's actually not relevant for what we're doing in this case. We need to go into the quick reference heading, the very first section, and we need to go under DNS info. If we click on this, it's going to come up and give you two sets of information. A primary and a secondary DNS, which it says is for your primary domain, sampledomain.net. In this case, these aren't the ones we're looking for. This is where your domain is already set up to, so not to worry. We need to go for these ones, the DNS servers for the add-on domains. So you can see here DNS231.easy.com and DNS232.easy.com. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a copy of this. And we're just going to open up Notepad in this case, easy enough to do, and just store it there temporarily. It's a good idea to either write it down. If you're planning to do a lot of domains, it's definitely easier to store it in a Notepad document or something, but do make sure you do a copy of it. Next thing we need to do is we're just going to go to the very top and we're going to click sign out. We're done with the primary domain right now, so that's sampledomain.net. The second one we're going to be going into is our second domain, the actual one we plan to add it on. In this case, it's sofarsosweet.com. That's actually the add-on domain we're going to be adding. This is our add-on domain, so we're going to be logging into this one right now. And we're going to go past the loading screen by continue to sign in. So for this one here, now that we're in member zone, we need to actually point this domain, our add-on domain, into our primary account, in this case sampledomain.net. We can easily do this by going under the domain heading to where it says change DNS. Now if your domain isn't registered with .ez, you're planning to use a domain you've already put somewhere else, you'll need to go into their domain panel and do it instead of coming into member zone and doing this. Unfortunately, we don't know what the settings necessarily are, so you'll want to check with your DNS provider who your domain is through, and they'll be able to walk you through this portion. But just make sure you do get those other two servers so that you can give it to them. So as we can see here, we've got our trusty information copy and pasted. So if you're using your .ez account and you've actually already got your domain pointing at .ez, so it was its own account before, you're going to notice it's already got most of the information in here. In this case, we only actually need to adjust the numbers. So we can see it's got the same thing in here, just different numbers. So we're going to do this first one at 231, just like we wrote down on our little form before. And then we're going to be doing the second one of 232. DNS always come in pairs, so as long as you've got one in there, the other one's always just one number sequentially higher. The other information, if you're worried it may be out of date or something else is incorrect here, you just click on the revert button and it will automatically go ahead and fill in the rest of the information for you. You then need to click on where it says apply changes. Now this may take a little bit to adjust it, and you just need to update the DNS to not only your account but to who is your domain, and basically send the information propagating across the internet. Now one thing to keep in mind just while we're waiting for this to load is that it may actually take up to 24 hours depending on your internet provider to reflect the changes online. That doesn't mean we need to wait to go into the other steps. We can actually go through right away, so we don't need to worry about it. But it's just if you put up any changes or anything, you may not see it right away. It may still be cached, so that's not a problem. So it says here the change request may take up to 48 hours. Don't need to worry about it. It should definitely be done within 24. So now that we've done everything we need for this account, we're actually going to sign back out. And that's the last time we need to reference our add-on domain. We actually don't need to touch it anymore. So we're going to be working exclusively with the primary domain, which in this case is our sampledomain.net. And then we're going to press continue signing again, go past the loading screen. Now we need to go under the quick reference heading, first section here, and go down to where it says site admin panel, cPanel. It's going to come up and automatically load you into your control panel. Here we need to go down under the domain section. Now if you're just defaulting this or first time through here, you're going to have it near the bottom. If you've been rearranging your own cPanel, maybe somewhere different, you can definitely drag and drop this wherever you want. We want to go into add-on domains under the domain heading. Here it's going to ask us some information, namely the new domain name, an FTP username, document root, and the password. So new domain name, that's easy enough. That's just the one we plan to add. So here you want to type in your add-on domain. As we said before, the one we're adding is sofarsosweet.com. So we're putting this in here. You're going to be putting in whatever domain name you're planning to add. Then once we click in anywhere else, whether it's in the password or whether it's in the username, it's actually going to propagate the next two fields for you. Now with the subdomain FTP username, if you're planning to do all the changes yourself and there's no one else working on the account, you actually don't even need to use the FTP username and the password. You can actually use your primary domain's FTP information and gain access to every one of your accounts. So it's much easier to manage. If you're someone who's setting this up, say for a friend, or you have someone else like a web designer working on it for you, you may want to set up the actual FTP username and password and remember it, write it down, so that you can give it to them so that they can work on this account only and none of the other accounts. So we're going to leave the FTP username just the way it is, auto-populated. Now this one is a little more important to remember. The document root is the actual folder it's going to be creating on your server. So this means if you go into the FTP for the main account, in our case sampledomain.net, we can actually see that it's going to create a folder called sofarsosweet.com. With this folder, that's where all the website files and contents for this add-on domain, sofarsosweet.com, need to go into. Anything you put in this folder is considered under that domain only, and it can't be referenced anything outside. So any add-on domain can't reference anything from the main domain itself. They are actually isolated from each other to properly prevent any issues, so you don't need to worry about any kind of conflicts between the two. Once we've done that, we need to put in a password. The actual password you enter, again, only really matters if you actually need to use the FTP username. If you plan to use the main account, so in this case, sampledomain.net's FTP information, it's going to be simple and easy to use. You can just put in a password and basically forget this. If you do ever need to come back to it, you can change it again, not a problem. You can contact our support and we can walk you through how to change it, easy enough. Now that we've got all the information in here, we want to go to where it says add domain. And it's going to go through the process of adding this in here for us. And we're just going to wait a second. It has to check the domain information, check that the first step we did of adding the DNS is done. And once that's taken care of, it'll go ahead and come up like it did just now. Where it says domain was added, you're going to get the little green check mark. If you try and add the domain and you haven't done the first step, you're actually going to get an error message here, instead saying that the IP address for your domain doesn't match the IP address for the server. Basically, it's not pointing here. So just make sure if you do see that message to go through back again and make sure you did the first step properly of updating the DNS. And once we've done that, we can click on where it says go back and we can see it now appears in the table. Now, if you're not actually planning to use this account for anything but a redirect, you can use this option here to manage the redirection, set it up right away. Otherwise, if you plan to set it up as its own separate account, you just want to leave it as it is. The next step we want to do after we've actually added the add-on domain is we need to set up a couple of features for it. If we go to where it says home at the top left, that'll take us back to the main section. Now, the first thing most people need to do is, once they've added the add-on domain, is start recreating the content. One of the most important things to set up right away is the email. You can do this by going to email accounts under mail, and you can start setting up the email accounts. What you'll notice here now is you'll see we've got a bunch of sampledomain.net email accounts that we've got on the account. Anytime you create an email account at the top where it says email account and password, you'll now see there's now a drop-down box and you can see all the different locations you've set up. So you can see you can now create one for SoFarSoSweet.com. In this case, we'll just set up an easy, quick one and set it up as unlimited because we're using unlimited hosting, and my passwords don't match. There we go. And then now we can see we've created the account. It shows up in the list, and you can see now it's got the different ones. So sampledomain.net and SoFarSoSweet.com. So now that it is an actual email address, it works. You can access it either directly from here if you really need to go in, by going to more and access webmail. Otherwise, if you need to access this any other time, you can easily do so by just typing into your browser the primary domain name, in this case sampledomain.net, followed by a / and then the word webmail. This will take you directly to your server login screen, and you can just type in the email address and password to get directly into your email account. The other thing we can now do is start setting up the account. If you're planning to set up WordPress or some other CMS or other program, you can go to where it says home at the top. You can go under Softaculous, which you'll find under software and services, and you can start setting up anything. So in this case, we're just going to select WordPress to give you an example. And here we're not going to go through the full installation, but we're just going to show you the important part, which is where it says choose domain. You now see the dropdown will also include the add-on domain. So from here you can easily install anything in Softaculous to your add-on domain with ease, no problem whatsoever. If you need to go in and actually update the files, you can again go in through the FTP account and you'll see that actual account set up there. And from that, we can see everything is now done. And just to give you an example of what it's going to look like, is we're going to go into the file manager, just so you can see from the FTP side what it's going to look like. And you'll now see there's an actual server created on the folder. So for SoFarSoSweet.com, so anything you actually set up, whether it's WordPress or whether it's anything else, it's going to be put in here. You can see it's even got its own CGI-bin folder already. And then any folder or file you put in here will be able to accessible from this domain. And that way it keeps them both separate, keeps them both there. They all have access to everything Unlimited Hosting has to offer. And again, no additional extra hosting costs. If you're worried about costing, especially for many of your older basic accounts, you may want to set this up one under the Unlimited Hosting and tie all the other ones into it. If you do have any problems with this or any questions, you can easily contact our support. We'll be more than happy to help you with this. Thank you as usual for watching our videos. Make sure you do like our Facebook page so you can catch in on any other information, any contests or any sales we're having. Make sure to do check out our YouTube channel for our other videos. We do have many out there. Subscribe to us, you'll be able to see when we come out with more helpful videos for you. And if you have any other questions, of course, don't hesitate to leave comments for us. Thank you.